Hello friends, and welcome back to Trials of Imorah. Trials of Imorah is a 2D action-adventure platformer with a heavy focus on exploration. Today, I wanted to do a bit less of a structured video and go over the recent changes that I've been working on over the past 2 months, which is crazy. In my head, it's been about 3 because of the amount of stuff that's been done, but nope, just over 2 months. Just since like the middle of April was my last update. So, in no exact order, this is just in the order that things were added based off of my update log from my Discord server. First off, I want to show you the vault, which I discussed in the year update video. How this is one of the couple of extra areas and big side content things that will kind of keep the final stretch of the project from being too simple. Because the main things that are obviously remaining are level 9 and the final boss area, but then we also have bonus areas like this, which aren't required for the main route of the game. I imagine most players never even finding this section because it's an offshoot from the tutorial level, so you have to return all the way back there and keep exploring to actually find this section. But you know, gotta have extra side content to make all of this a full media experience for everyone. Get their money's worth and everything. And I guess like that's also kind of BS. I don't have to add this stuff, but I want to. It's my vision for the project, for all this extra stuff to be in the game, have this be like a fully realized world with lots of extra content to do. Because in my head, if the player just like beats all the levels and beats the final boss, I don't know. That's just in my head. That's not enough content. There needs to be more to go back to. There needs to be more to do once you've gotten to the end game and you're all kitted out with all of the crazy late game upgrades. You still have more stuff to go do. The vault being one of them, because these fights, as you might have noticed, I'm just throwing mini bosses into this little section. You have to refight mini bosses in these ambush fight chambers, and once you do that, then you'll get a reward. Now, at the moment, there's no reward here yet. This section is still in development, but here I'll push a little bit further just to show the concept for it. Basically, those were all enemies from level 1, the Poison Forest level, and as you proceed through the vault, after each little combat chamber, you will get a reward for your efforts, and then you will make your way to the next ambush room fight chamber. For this one, I need the wind staff to open the door. And yeah, it's basically just a revisiting of all of the different enemies and mechanics from every single level. And you'll only be able to access each preceding step of this area after you complete that associated level, because as you saw with that door, you needed to use the wind staff to open the mechanism. And then later on, basically all the mechanics throughout the entire game will have to be used here to go through every single door. So here, I'll just kill these enemies real quick, and then we can move on to the next thing. I think you guys get the gist of it, and I don't want to show too much of this, because you guys will play it for yourself one day. I don't want to ruin that. Okay, so I killed those guys real quick, and yeah, there's no reward here. But then, yeah, moving on to the next area, you have to use bombs to get through it. And blah, 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 blah. What else did I work on? Okay, for a change of scenery, I'm back in the main forest village of Ormond Village. There is another rune that I added to the game, as well as a kind of significant, I wouldn't say overhaul, but like major change to how the rune system works in its entirety. So first off, the new rune that I added, if I can find it here, there it is, the Higher Soul rune. which, yeah, it's level 1 by default, of course, because we not upgraded it. And then the cost I will get to shortly, because that is new for the runes, the cost associated with it. But basically, as long as you cast a spell that is at least 6 mana, then you have a % chance to restore mana. So that's very powerful if you are a magic user. When you have that activated and you want to spam a bunch of spells, there we go, it already fired. You basically have a % chance to get a refund of your mana pool back. Very powerful, very cool stuff. Onto the cost aspect. So previously, this third column of runes for each type, for the axe, bow, and shields respectively, you previously could only select one of them at a time. That's what made this column special. The reason that was the case was because some runes in the game are inherently contradictory to each other. They would not function if you had both of them activated at the same time. The main example of that I have are the impetus and corruption runes for your bow. The corruption rune does more damage immediately. So if you fire your bow and arrow point blank, it does maximum damage, but then the damage trails off the further the arrow travels. Impetus does the exact opposite. The further that the arrow travels, it does more damage. So yeah, it doesn't make sense for both of those to be activated at the same time. The game only lets you do one. And actually, it still only lets you do one because basically the substitute for that system of it being completely exclusive is you have a limit. There's a cost limit of 4 for how many. There's a cost value of 4 limiting which runes you can select, each one having its own cost associated with it. So basically, you can add up as many runes as you want in this column, but not above 4. So these ones, like the impact rune and the parallel rune, they only cost 1, so you can activate both of them, plus the stack rune that only costs 1. And do I have another? There we go. And the burst rune that only costs 1 also. You can activate all 4 of those. But now you're at your limit. If you try to activate something else, like the corruption rune, you're going to disable the rest of them and only have that one. And that one's at 3. 3 plus 3 is 6. That's too many, so you can't have both of those. Really, it's very simple. But that was my overcomplicated way of explaining it. All of that to say, like, why I made this change was giving more freedom to the player, potentially making them way more OP. But, you know, I hate the idea of players not being able to play the way that they want to. Especially with some of the other ones for the axe. There's some very cool behavior that you have. Like, where is it? Am I blind? There it is, the arc rune, which only costs 2, so it is compatible with other things. It's very powerful, but it's the type of thing that I could imagine some people just straight up not using instead of some of the other ones. The greed rune specifically, I imagine a lot of people would just pick it all the time because getting more gold feels more fun than necessarily doing more damage, or I don't know. I'm trying to hedge my bets against the player trying to optimize their way out of having fun. And I was very worried about them only using the greed rune to get more gold, because I want them to use stuff like the arc rune. And the arc rune, which has been in the game for a long time, and I'm very, very proud of, when you are at full health, this is straight up out of Zelda, when you're at full health, you fire a slash arc in front of you. And when you upgrade it, let me cheat real quick so that I can upgrade it. Let me find the F9. If we can find the arc rune in this giant list. Don't worry, we'll get back to this menu in a bit also. If we upgrade it oh god. If you upgrade it twice, then it also triggers off of your other melee attacks. So when you uppercut, it fires above you, and when you do an air spin, it directs itself towards your cursor. So it becomes another ranged projectile. And I think I said it activates when you're at full health. I think I lied to you. It's at full stamina. So it regens very quickly. But you can't spam it as you're draining your stamina. You have to wait for for the stamina to go up, and then that can be your strong opening move. Okay. Giant sidetrack tangent, because the Arc Rune is not new at all. But those are the new changes to the rune system. And that actually does kind of flow right into the other new change that I did. It's funny, like the new things that I added in the game, like there's a logical flow to it, because I'll just work on one thing, and then that reminds me of something else to work on, and on and on and on and on forever. The game is never finished. At the bottom of the screen, I added a new filter option where you just click it to switch between them. Right now I just switched so that it only filters axe runes. You can filter it to only show ones for your bow, and you can filter it to only show ones for your shield. Previously, or without a filter, it just shows all of them in order. I believe axe, bow, and then shield. Yeah, axe, bow, shield. Which I should probably change, because in the other menu it's axe, shield, bow. But regardless, yeah, you can sort it by each of those three types. You can sort by ones that you can actually afford to upgrade, because you need a certain amount of gold and materials to actually upgrade it. And then you can also just straight up filter it alphabetically, which I imagine will be the most useful. Arguably, I should just set it to that. But we'll see. Much more majorly is that this house in the middle, I've had so many playtesters, God bless them, they come in here and talk about how this NPC speaking to them is broken. It doesn't work. It's a bug. Fix it. But in reality, it was just never implemented until now. Now when you talk to Ash, you actually have a quest line to work on where they will ask for you to hunt down different monster drop items for the sake of their research. And basically, you might notice 10 different shelves. Basically, you're meant to explore all 9 levels plus the tutorial to bring back parts from every single enemy, and then eventually fill up this shelf. The quest isn't complete because, of course, the final level enemies aren't all done with their drop items yet. But this is just another thing approaching the end of the game, having these long-spanning tasks that kind of overarch the entire progression of the game. Keep coming back to the vault to complete those challenges there, keep coming back to the village to return drop items to this guy, and then he'll keep giving you gold rewards for each set of drops that you give him. Very cool. Some other very cool stuff is I've added 2 new map screens for these finalized level layouts. The first is the Flaming Graveyard, and then the second is for Sinisa. I love this map so much because this one really showcases the scale of these levels. These are some crazy branching pathways. I'm very proud of the level design for this section, because there's essentially 3 different completely distinct paths you can take before you reach the bottom section where there's the mini boss, and then of course you can see the giant collapse in the bottom right. The giant chasm to the rest of the zombie level. Another mechanic that I've been experimenting with that isn't finalized, I don't even have a sprite for the item, it's currently called a Shrine Stone. I've been working on trying to figure out the problem of players getting stuck in the middle of these giant levels. They're out of healing potions, they're out of useful tools like bombs and arrows, and they're just stuck. It's going to be an absolute nightmare getting back to a village or to a shopkeeper to actually resupply them on more items. So the idea that I had was a Shrine Stone, which itself, I want it to have some sort of cost. Right now it costs 10 gold, and basically using it, it'll consume that gold, and then it'll return you to the last checkpoint that you passed through. I would love opinions on that. Personally, I feel like 10 gold is maybe too cheap, but I don't know, it's a hard thing to balance. There needs to be some sort of cost, but the cost needs to not be so great that it's pointless, because this is supposed to solve the problem when the player is out of resources and out of options, and they're just throwing a Hail Mary to go back to the shrines where they can actually teleport back to somewhere that they can get more supplies and regroup. But yeah, that's my current solution. Not having a sprite for it yet. I haven't fully decided on it. But let me know what you think of that. I would love to get more feedback on that concept. And that's directly related to another change that I did. Also from playtester feedback, shrines will now actually restore your health. So you can see it regenerating. Yeah, that was an additional idea about how cruel the game can be at times. But if you can actually find a shrine, even if you're out of healing items, you can regenerate at the shrine, which I'm still not certain about this one either. I'm going back and forth. Everything is a constant game design question. But that mechanic specifically, if players want to have a more challenging experience, I added that to the gameplay preferences. So they can disable the shrine's heal option right here. And then the shrine will stop healing you at that point. No longer get those particle flecks. No more stat regeneration. Another change that you might have noticed is that all of the player animations have been replaced. Which is a major, insane change that I'm surprised I didn't bring up earlier. But it's been a couple weeks since I did it. But yeah, all of the players' animations have been redone. Some of them that hadn't been touched since 2017. The knockback one specifically. Here, I can use debug commands to force myself to be knocked back. And the shield and the uppercut and the gravity slam and all of the different aimings all upgraded, and there's a new highlight shader around the player that helps make them more visible in dark environments like this. So solving two different issues of both the old animations kind of just being terrible and outdated, and fixing visibility issues, because God, this game can be very, very dark sometimes. Another change that I made, largely in preparation for all the mechanics of the ice level, is that ice magic will now create platforms when it comes into contact with water. These platforms, as you can see, they slowly shrink and melt over time. This is just a necessity of how games operate, is that can't let the player keep creating them forever and crash the game that way. No memory leaks. So those disappear over time. They, of course, also disappear faster if you hit them with fire, of course. And again, because of technical limitations, they only appear on the surface. So if you try to launch freeze magic underwater, it will not create a platform. It will freeze you and all of your surroundings, as you can see, but it will only create the platforms at the top. And this works with all of the different ways that you can apply freeze magic. There's the projectile type that I just showed you there. This is actually with the new freeze spell again for the new ice level that launches a spread of the projectiles. This also works, of course, with the ice beam weapon. You have a more surgical way of applying it. And then, where'd the fire spell go? Get the fire spell back. This also works with ice bombs, assuming you can aim it right so that it blows up at the surface of the water. Because again, that does not work if it's too low below the surface. But yeah, I would like to also add this for lava, to add rock platforms at the top. Probably using the exact same logic. If you hit it with ice, then it will cool down and coalesce the lava into a solid platform. I have not implemented that, but that is something that would be very easy to do. I just need a different sprite instead of the ice. Speaking of the settings menu again, I have fixed bugs with the built version, so now the resolution options actually show correctly. It doesn't show correctly right now because this is inside of the Unity engine editor, but in the actual built version, it will display correctly. And I've also added the two new options for FPS target and VSync. VSync is on by default, which kind of overwrites the FPS, because then it will just try to match the FPS to the refresh rate of your monitor, which I've learned lessons about. I need to try getting some different monitors, because right now mine is limited to 60 frames per second using that. But I can't stand playing without VSyncs. That's kind of just... that's default to true, but of course you can set it to false if you want, and then try messing with the different frame rate targets if you're not limited to your monitor refresh rate. Right now I have 5 as a joke. I'll probably remove that though, because when the game runs at only 5 frames per second, it does come into some technical issues, because even like the menu lags horribly running at 5 frames per second. So it's like it takes a second just to undo that change to something playable. I'll probably leave it as 20 is the lowest, which even then, like, I'm not even sure if there's an actual use case, but I guess I'll have it as a performance option there. But yeah, whoever's playing this game and like really needs to play at that low frame rate, I'll eventually work on adding other performance options also that'll like reducing the amount of particle effects from different things in the environment, and maybe adjusting like certain tick rates of different AI behaviors. I don't know, there's a lot of options. I've not really had a call to action for that though. All playtesters have had good experiences with the performance. I just hope everyone has a gaming PC that'll make it the easiest. I don't think you can run this on like an old Windows machine. Like running Windows 7 might struggle. Or maybe it'd be fine. Development started on a Windows 7 machine. Anyways, I'm also in this Poison Forest section to show that the highlight has been applied to some different enemy types also. Not all of them yet, but specifically these poison guys now have the poison glow around them. I plan on adding that effect to more enemies in the future, but it kind of just takes time applying that because there's so many different enemies in the game now at this point. But we'll get there. And I'm just running over here. This is the first boss battle of the game. And now it looks a little bit better because it has the glowing highlight outline around it. Very cool stuff. All right, here, let's talk about an actual new item that's in the game. Back to level 5, the desert level. Javelin cactuses here now have actual unique drop items. Not that he dropped it there, of course, I would never be so lucky. But now they will drop cactus flowers, which are a food healing item that also restores your mana a bit. It is special that it will also make you drunk if you eat 3 of them in a row while you're in the same region, which of course causes the drunk status effect. That is still one of my favorite mechanics in the game. Which I'm not sure if I've ever showed before, but the Bargain Stone, which is a special magic item you can get in level 2, if I can find, there it is. When you use that, that can restore your drunkenness immediately. It's not as fun now though, is it? Alright, actually in the ice level for a second, you can see some of the progress that I'm making. The new mechanic that I have is these magic orb things that I currently call vapor blobs. I'm not sure if that's the name that's going to be in-game or not. I'm not even sure if there's going to be an actual name readable anywhere that you can find. But these are projectiles that will damage you when they hit you, but they have the special property that when struck with ice magic, they will freeze into solid blocks for all sorts of physics shenanigans. And there's of course the obvious. It's like, oh, there's a thing you can freeze into a block. Let's activate a pressure plate with the block. Which you actually have to pair up with other mechanics, because you can see we got 2 pressure plates. We got to use the shadow clone to activate both of them at the same time, and then run, and then we can make it through the door real quick. Game design. But yes, you're probably also curious with this level. How are the new enemies going? They're doing fine. This first guy is a burgling, like an iceberg. Burgling. Maybe it's a work in progress. Maybe I'll change it. But these guys just fly around and shoot ice magic at you. Very simple, straightforward. They're not really the highlight. Jumping into the water, there is a new variety to the bomber fish. And also a new variety of slimes that are ice slimes. These are all very crazy concepts. I know none of you saw these coming. They're going to add another new element to the slimes. Yeah, they're weak to fire. Those guys are weak to fire also. But they're in water, which kind of gives them an advantage. And different from the other bomber fish, they will have an ice explosion instead of a fire explosion, of course, because we are in the ice level. Of course, the new enemy that I'm actually excited about right now are the giants, which not all their animations are done yet, so hopefully won't do anything too wonky. But yes, it's a new melee type enemy that are giant compared to you. So that'll come. Oh no, there's no jumping animation yet. Don't look at that. Don't look at that. Get away. Another fun, quick technical change is that when you remap your controls on your hotbar button specifically, which are normally just your number keys, 1, 2, 3 through 0, if you change those options to a different key, such as letters or F7, F6, F5, right shift, enter, those will actually show up at the bottom of the screen with the new key binding. Those will actually update. And if you mess it up horribly like me, you can also just hit defaults and that'll set it back to normal. Also, technical change you might have noticed is that the camera now adjusts when the player is airborne. It actually shifts to kind of put the player back in the middle of focus so you can see more below you. It's very subtle, but then once you're on the ground, the camera will kind of shift back in place, giving more view above you, because most of the time when you're in combat or exploring, there's more stuff above you than below you in the game. Especially in city areas like this, where there's a lot more background that is visible above the player. But also in this city, I have added the much awaited by me, I'm not sure if anyone else cared, but there's an NPC that you can speak to now that will allow you to refund your upgrades. So if you level up your vitality or synergy or stamina, basically translate that to if you're melee focused or range focused or magic focused, you can respec and get a refund of your souls. So right now, I can't respec right now. Now I can respec. I'm level 2 in all those things. I can talk to them, pay the fee, and then I'm back to level 1, and I have my souls to spend, which I can then go back to the shrines on every single level, spend souls, and choose how I want to upgrade myself respectively. And I kind of messed up the ordering here. The last new thing is that books, yeah, you could read books before, but now the books are an actual book. That texture wasn't in the game before. It looked terrible before. It was just a solid square background. But now it's an actual book. And if I don't get lazy, all these different books will actually have different colored backgrounds to match their sprite. It'll be very cool. Everything will be unique. So yeah, the problem with showing off mechanics and new features in just the order that I added them is that now there's no big exciting thing to end this on. I already showed you the big new giant enemy who's not even done yet. I'll show more of that next time probably. But I hope you enjoyed this. I hope you got some fun insight into the behind the scenes and the types of things that I'm working on right now. Let me know if you have any thoughts on any of them. If you would like to playtest any of them, feel free to check out the game on itch.io right now. You can playtest the first 6 levels for free and tell me all about all the bugs and things that I messed up on. I'd really appreciate it. Also, please wishlist the game on Steam. I would really appreciate that as well. And yeah, that's all for this time. Thank you so much, and I'll talk to you all later.